Welcome, may this moment feel like a door opening, a quiet shift that begins inside before the outside reflects it. And while you listen, let the next seconds hold your attention fully, because the words ahead were the foundation of Florence Scovel Shinn's teachings on prosperity, the recognition that the spoken word is not sound but power, not noise but instruction to life. And right now, comment "I speak in money" responds to seal within you the identity that attracts wealth through language. And if you feel called to support this channel through Super Chat, let it be a seed planted in fertile soil that returns multiplied in ways you do not expect but fully deserve. Imagine yourself speaking about money without tension, without fear of scarcity, without the old echo of lack that once lived behind every decision. Imagine a new voice rising inside you, steady and sure, declaring abundance as ordinary as sunlight entering a room, because Florence repeated endlessly that the universe hears certainty the same way soil hears rain. It responds, it produces, it returns. And those who prosper are not louder but clearer, they speak wealth as if it already belongs to them, and life mirrors that tone with precision. Money answers belief, not doubt, and every sentence you say becomes a mold reality fills. So when someone repeats "I never have enough," life agrees, and when someone affirms "money flows to me easily," life also agrees. Florence taught that the tongue is a wand-shaping substance, that every word falls into the invisible and returns as condition, and look how this changes everything when you truly understand it. Look how your future rearranges the moment you speak from authority instead of longing, from ownership instead of hope. See the path in front of you widening like a curtain slowly drawn open. See unexpected income arriving like soft rain, feeding the roots of opportunities that were always planted but never watered. And now your words begin watering them. Now you say "I am open to prosperity," and channels appear. Doors you never noticed begin to unlock. Ideas turn into results because the inner law has been spoken into motion. Florence said faith is the blueprint of wealth, and the blueprint is written in thought, in tone, in declaration. Money comes where the voice is firm, where identity is aligned with receiving, where the mind no longer argues with possibility but speaks as the one who already holds it. And feel the shift right there in your chest, subtle but unmistakable, that sensation of something old falling away and something new taking shape, because from this moment forward your words matter like currency. They build or they block, they open or they close. And now you choose sentences that open, sentences that command, sentences that create. Prosperity hears you when you speak, not as request but as decree, and your reality moves according to the law of the spoken word, the same law Florence lived, taught, and demonstrated, and you begin to embody it now. You begin to feel what it is to speak like one who expects return, to speak as creator not seeker, to speak wealth into form the way breath fills the lungs naturally and freely and without effort. Because prosperity is not built through tension but through tone, and tone is shaped by belief, and belief is shaped by the words repeated day after day until the subconscious treats them as law, as baseline, as truth. And you begin to notice that every sentence about money becomes a thread weaving your reality, and negative speech unravels what positive speech builds. So Florence insisted that you guard your words like treasure, because the mouth is the first place where wealth lives or dies. And now imagine yourself waking each morning speaking wealth as naturally as breathing, saying "money flows to me," and feeling no resistance, no doubt, no contradiction, only recognition, like something deep inside nods in agreement, and life answers through unexpected income, open doors, new opportunities arriving not by chance but by command. And see how your life shifts when you stop repeating stories of lack, when instead of telling the world what you do not have you begin stating what is already on its way, when speech becomes future instead of past, when identity becomes rich before the bank reflects it, because Florence said the invisible is the blueprint, and those who speak abundance create the blueprint before the house appears. And the house appears only because the blueprint was spoken into form. And now you notice something changing inside you, like an engine warming, like a path clearing, and the more you speak prosperity the more natural it becomes, like language learned not by study but by immersion. Money answers speech because money is movement, and movement follows instruction, and instruction is given through the tongue. And when you speak wealth as law, life responds like loyal servant to master, not from force but from alignment, not from demand but from certainty. And see how thoughts begin rearranging themselves like flock of birds changing direction mid-flight, the old sentences dissolving, the new ones taking root. And you start to realize lack was never the problem, language was. Identity was, belief was, and now you rewrite all three through repeated decree, through sentences said with spine straight, with voice steady, with inner knowing that the universe does not hesitate when command is clear. Feel the momentum building, like tide rising, like energy thickening around your words. And Florence said every thought is a seed and every spoken word waters it. And if you water abundance long enough, harvest is not optional, it is inevitable. And you begin to trust this inevitability, you begin to expect it, not as dream but as normal outcome of mental law, and prosperity starts to feel close. Like something brushing your fingertips, ready to fall into your hands the moment you speak with full authority. Now picture a life where bills are paid without strain, where opportunities come faster than excuses, where you no longer ask can I have this but instead speak I allow this, I welcome this, I generate this, because wealth is not granted, it is activated, and activation happens through word, and as you speak you notice time responding, situations shifting, people approaching with offers, ideas forming with clarity. And Florence would remind you that nothing external moves until the inner word moves first, and once it moves everything else must follow like planets following sun, magnetic, undeniable, precise. Money answers clarity, not confusion, and your voice is becoming clearer, stronger, more direct, your declarations no longer half-believed but absorbed by every cell, and you feel this calm power, not loud, not desperate, but quiet and unshakable, like stone beneath shifting waves, and from that stillness you speak wealth into existence as naturally as sunrise enters the sky, and life obeys because law obeys. And prosperity is no longer concept but identity, no longer distant but present, no longer something you chase but something that comes when called, and every sentence you speak from this moment forward builds reality like brick on brick, and the house of wealth rises because you spoke it into being. And prosperity is no longer concept but identity, no longer distant but present, no longer something you chase but something that comes when called, and every sentence you speak from this moment forward builds reality like brick on brick, and the house of wealth rises because you spoke it into being. And Florence knew that once the word is planted the universe responds like soil receiving seed, unseen first, then unstoppable. Because law does not question desire, only follows instruction, and instruction is the spoken word carried with belief, and belief becomes the pattern through which money enters your life, consistent, steady, effortless, like breathing in and out without thinking. You will notice the shift in the way you think, the way you react to opportunities, the way you interpret challenges, because challenges become invitations, not obstacles, signals not barriers, and Florence said every delay is preparation, every pause is alignment, every silence is gestation of manifestation, and when you speak with authority the pause shortens, the alignment accelerates, the manifestation arrives. Feel the expansion in your chest as if doors inside your mind open one by one, like a corridor growing longer the more you walk through it, endless possibility extending forward, and the more you speak wealth the more real it becomes, the more natural it feels, the more your nervous system adapts to abundance instead of scarcity, to receiving instead of surviving, to expansion instead of contraction. Money is movement, movement follows instruction, and instruction is repeated thought given voice, so when you wake tomorrow with sentence prosperity follows me wherever I go, you are not hoping but declaring, not wishing but activating law. Imagine walking through your home with the quiet confidence of someone who knows resources arrive on time, that payments never intimidate, that bank accounts grow like trees in spring, because Florence taught that prosperity is not granted to the anxious but to the aligned, to the one who speaks victory as fact, to the one who expects return instead of fearing absence. You may remember seasons where money felt distant, where receiving felt like climbing a mountain barefoot, but now watch how the mountain shrinks, how your steps lighten, how pathways widen, because identity has changed, and identity is the foundation of reality. And now the universe begins adjusting to your voice, like metal bending to magnet, like tide following moon, because alignment is not accidental, it is commanded, and your word is command. Feel how you start to think in terms of abundance instead of cost, opportunity instead of risk, gain instead of loss, wealth instead of lack, because language rewires the subconscious, and the subconscious rewires life. Florence said nothing resists a mind convinced, nothing delays a word backed by faith, so now your affirmations are not noise but blueprints, not sentences but structure, not speech but architecture of abundance. Money answers the tone of certainty the same way echo answers voice in a canyon, and every time you affirm wealth the universe replies louder, stronger, faster, like momentum building behind a rolling wave. You will begin noticing coincidences that are not coincidences, deposits that appear when needed, discounts that arrive unexpectedly, clients who find you without searching, doors that open before you knock, and you will understand that none of this is random, it is response, it is obedience to the word you speak. And now imagine 5 years from today reading this again from a home you dreamed of, sitting in a chair you paid for easily, checking accounts that hold more than you ever thought possible, doing work you love because survival no longer dictates choice. Feel that future like a memory instead of a wish, like something you already lived, because Florence said to speak from the end, to declare the harvest while seed is still underground, to thank the answered prayer before it arrives in form, and when you speak from the end moves into now. You may feel an inner pull, a warmth behind the ribs, a turning of invisible wheels, because something ancient is responding, the part of you that always knew abundance was natural, that wealth is birthright not privilege, that supply is infinite not scarce. Now your voice aligns with this truth, and when voice aligns with truth reality bends without resistance, like gold melting in fire, shaping into the form commanded by the mold. Wealth no longer scares you because you no longer see it as outside, you see it as expression of who you are, reflection of inner state, and money becomes a messenger not a master. You speak and it comes, you decide and it forms, you claim and it arrives, not through fight but through invocation, not through struggle but through law. You are becoming fluent in prosperity the way one becomes fluent in language, through repetition, through rhythm, through identity. And the world will notice the change, not through what you say but how you move, how you choose, how you respond to life with ease instead of fear, with clarity instead of hesitation. People will ask what changed and you will know the answer is everything, because your tongue stopped echoing lack and began declaring wealth. Your subconscious stopped preparing for survival and began preparing for expansion. Your vibration, your voice, your identity became too rich for a poor reality to contain. And as you continue speaking wealth into existence, you will see miracles disguised as math, blessings disguised as timing, income disguised as coincidence. You will stand in the middle of what you once prayed for and recognize not chance but accuracy, not luck but law. You will realize that every word you spoke was brick and every belief cement, and the mansion you live in tomorrow will be built from sentences you speak today. Keep reading, because the power is compounding. Prosperity expands in movement, and movement begins with word declared with certainty, and certainty grows through repetition. Speak wealth like sunrise speaks light into darkness and the darkness cannot resist. Speak abundance like tree speaks green into winter and winter must end. Speak prosperity like seed speaks root into soil and the soil must open. You are the law in motion, the decree in form, the voice that shapes matter. Wealth is no longer visitor but resident, no longer guest but companion. Every sentence from now forward is gold minted in sound, and your life becomes treasury that never empties because the mint never stops. And as the current of prosperity flows through your thoughts, you begin to understand that money is not a destination but a frequency, not a possession but an extension of state, and state is shaped by speech, and speech shaped by awareness. Florence affirmed that the invisible precedes the visible, and now you live that truth firsthand, watching your external life rearrange itself like furniture shifting into better placement, more space, more harmony, more availability for blessings to move through. You no longer speak as seeker but as owner, no longer announce fear but command outcome, because the moment your word becomes law your life becomes reflection. Notice how your nervous system adapts, how your pulse steadies, how old scarcity thoughts dissolve like fog under morning sun, leaving only clarity, direction, power. In this clarity you begin making decisions from wealth instead of lack, and wealth responds to that posture like tides respond to moon, inevitable, continuo, crescente. Money answers consistency the way echo answers voice. Every affirmation repeated sends signal deeper into subconscious soil until roots form strong and immovable, and once roots exist the tree rises without permission, without apology, without needing approval to grow. That is you now, not rising by force, but rising because nature demands it. Abundance becomes your default and lack becomes memory, distant like a previous life you no longer inhabit. Picture yourself entering rooms where opportunity greets you before you speak, doors opening without knock, resources flowing not because you chase but because you radiate. Florence said those who know the law do not scramble, they do not beg, they stand and declare, and life rushes to meet them like river meeting sea. You stand now in that declaration, and watch how even small desires manifest quickly, a payment arriving early, a sale appearing unexpectedly, a yes where once there was silence. You begin to trust your voice the way pilot trusts horizon, steady, guiding, true, because the universe does not obey confusion, only conviction. When you say I am wealthy, you are not asking, you are remembering. When you say money flows to me with ease, you are not hoping, you are activating. Wealth is not a reward, it is response, direct, precise, mathematical in obedience to spoken law. Feel this truth in your breath, abundance is not coming, it is revealing. It lived inside you dormant like seed before spring, waiting not for timing but for instruction, and now the instruction is clear, unwavering, spoken from identity not desire. You speak and money answers because money is servant of belief, and belief is shaped by repeated decree. Every sentence builds momentum like wave growing taller, stronger, unstoppable as it reaches shore. Imagine now how your future unfolds when this tone becomes permanent, new homes purchased with calm ease, travel paid without strain, investments multiplying without fear, bank accounts reflecting inner certainty not outer stress. You see yourself giving freely, receiving freely, moving freely because restraint no longer lives in your vocabulary. Speech opens river instead of dam, and the river never questions the right to flow. And in silent moments you smile because wealth no longer feels foreign but familiar, like an old friend returning home. People will ask your secret, but there is no secret, only law. You spoke abundance until abundance answered. You declared wealth until wealth lived in you. Florence taught this not as metaphor but mechanics, the design of reality responding to internal decree. Now a new layer unfolds, money becomes multiplication, not just arrival. You do not only receive, you generate, you expand, you create channels where none existed. Ideas come swiftly like lightning striking dry ground, igniting opportunities into flame. Your creativity strengthens, your intuition sharpens, your perception widens to see paths that scarcity once hid. You recognize profitable ideas instantly, attract collaborators aligned with growth, step into rooms where resources circulate like oxygen. And nothing about this feels lucky, it feels earned by mind, spoken by law, constructed by word. Lack becomes illusion dissolving at touch, like shadow clears under light. You no longer fear expenses because supply expands to meet them. You no longer dread change because growth follows change like dawn follows night. Money becomes fluid, not held tight in fist but flowing through open hand that never empties because circulation sustains supply. Florence said the world is mirror not dictator, it reflects you, it does not command you. And now reflection shows abundance where once it showed limitation. Opportunities widen, prosperity compounds like interest continuous and exponential. The more you declare, the more life confirms. The more you understand, the more wealth obeys. You are not learning money, you are remembering abundance. Now breathe once and feel how far you came inside this text alone, shifts layered upon shifts like waves overlapping into deeper tide. The next stage unfolds effortlessly. You become magnet instead of seeker. You become lighthouse instead of ship. Wealth finds you because identity became signal, frequency, command. And every word ahead strengthens that signal, engraves abundance deeper, makes prosperity permanent rather than occasional. This is not peak, it is beginning. Prosperity now grows like forest from a single seed, expanding year after year, branch after branch, until shade covers generations. Money no longer enters and leaves, it roots, multiplies, sustains. You speak and it answers not with echo but avalanche. This understanding becomes like air you breathe, not effort but nature, not theory but experience in motion, wealth responding to you the way seasons respond to sunlight. You are no longer the one hoping prosperity arrives, you are the one wealth recognizes as home, as host, as match. Every belief begins aligning like stars into constellation, forming pathways you could not see before because lack cast shadow where abundance now casts light. And as you speak truth of prosperity, the echo returns louder each time, reflecting that money is not a chase but a mirror. Your future broadens like wings unfurling, wide enough to carry generations, because prosperity does not stop with you, it extends through you, flowing outward into family, work, ideas, creations. Florence taught that wealth given returns multiplied because circulation is law, and you find joy in giving because you no longer give from emptiness but from overflow. You are source, not drain, field of supply not field of need, and everything you touch begins to bloom in proportion to the certainty in your voice. Imagine your daily life shaped by ease instead of stress, choices made from clarity instead of fear, schedules filled with things you love because survival is no longer your foundation. You choose expansion, you choose growth, you choose investment in self because you recognize your value as the engine of wealth. And the more you honor your worth, the more the world reflects it financially, materially, visibly, undeniably. This is not imagination, this is law expressing itself through identity. You walk into rooms differently, not louder but deeper, like presence that bends circumstance in quiet power. People listen when you speak, opportunities open when you decide, money flows when you command because command is no longer forced, it is natural, it is state, it is tone. The universe does not answer volume, it answers conviction. And conviction now lives inside you like pulse, rhythmic, steady, continuous. There is a moment where abundance stops feeling like something you are trying to attract and becomes something you are maintaining, managing, multiplying. You shift from recipient to architect, from seeker to distributor. Ideas become currency. Confidence becomes capital. Time becomes ally. Wealth becomes language you speak fluently, without thought, without correction, without hesitation, because your identity and your speech are no longer separate, they are one. You will begin to notice something profound, abundance no longer surprises you. It feels expected, normal, inevitable. Payments arrive and you feel gratitude but not disbelief. Opportunities appear and you step forward instead of questioning worth. New income streams emerge and you treat them as expansion of what was already true. Wealth was always yours internally, now it simply arrives externally like reflection in clean water. And soon your reality will carry evidence visible to anyone watching, bank accounts rising like tide, investments compounding like seasons, lifestyle expanding in grace not excess. You will buy things you once dreamed of and think not how did this happen but of course it happened, because law responded to word. Florence said no door remains closed to one who speaks as if it is already open, and this principle guides you now effortlessly like compass pointing north. You awaken with peace instead of pressure, go to sleep with satisfaction instead of worry. You make decisions quickly because clarity replaces doubt, and doubt dissolves when identity is strong. Lack cannot coexist with certainty, one must leave, and lack has already begun to leave you. Prosperity fills the space it once occupied like water filling emptied vessel, smooth, complete, unstoppable. Money becomes friend, not fear. Flow, not fight. Partnership, not pursuit. You do not shrink to fit conditions, conditions expand to meet you. You do not hope supply arrives, supply confirms your decree. The world no longer dictates your financial state, you dictate the world's response with your inner assumption. Nothing about this is temporary. You are in transformation irreversible. The river is flowing and cannot be turned back into stone. You have crossed threshold where mindset, speech, belief, and reality form single equation, balanced, harmonic, generative. Wealth is result of this equation written in your subconscious and spoken through your mouth into form. This is where abundance stops being vision and becomes environment. This is where abundance stops being vision and becomes environment, where wealth is not a visitor but a resident within your consciousness, shaping every outcome like wind shapes waves, like roots shape forests, like belief shapes destiny. You no longer measure prosperity by numbers but by expansion, by ease, by the open doors that appear in front of you even when logic cannot explain their timing. You wake each morning with the sense that something good is already on its way before you lift your head from the pillow, because abundance is no longer an event to anticipate, it is a frequency you live in. You begin making decisions as someone who expects growth rather than fears loss. You invest in ideas, in self, in skill, not with desperation but with inner calm, knowing multiplication follows expansion the way spring follows winter, guaranteed not by luck but by cycle. Florence taught that one who declares wealth mentally cannot remain poor physically, just as one who lives love internally cannot remain unloved externally. The world is mirror, not master. It reflects you. It does not rule you. And now that reflection grows brighter with each thought, each declaration, each breath aligned with abundance. Opportunities respond to you like metal to magnet. Conversations lead to resources. Ideas lead to income. A sentence spoken in confidence becomes a door, then a path, then a landscape of possibilities unfolding like sunrise across horizon. You no longer ask how long it will take, you know it is already taking form. You feel it beneath your reality like seeds breaking soil, roots gripping earth, growth inevitable though invisible at first. Wealth is the tree rising, speech is the seed and ground, belief is the water. You adopt a new standard of living not by force but by familiarity. Prosperity begins to feel not like something you reach for but something that matches you, an equal, a reflection of your worth rather than a compensation for lack. You no longer look at prices with contraction, but with neutrality or even excitement, because value no longer frightens you, you see it as exchange, circulation, expansion. Money spent returns multiplied. Money given returns enlarged. Wealth used wisely increases like breath, you exhale what you can release, and inhale what the universe returns. You speak abundance the way fire speaks light, naturally, instantly, irrevocably. Your words no longer ask, they announce. They declare. They establish. Florence said the spoken word is like electricity, unseen until it meets resistance and becomes light. Now your speech meets faith instead of fear, and illumination follows. Ideas illuminate. Direction illuminates. Your path ahead shines not by accident but by decree. And you begin to understand the depth of power hidden inside language. A sentence changes future. A phrase opens channels. A declaration rearranges substance. You are not simply thinking wealth, you are sculpting reality with vocabulary, shaping circumstances with syllables, moving resources with tone. Prosperity recognizes authority and authority recognizes itself. You speak as more than body, you speak as creator. The more you remain in this awareness, the greater the flow becomes. Income streams multiply like rivers branching from a single source. You find opportunities not by searching but by standing in identity. You attract rather than chase. You receive rather than reach. You embody rather than request. And embodiment is the language the universe hears clearest. Soon your finances reflect what your consciousness has become. Bank accounts rise like tide beneath moon. Debts dissolve like frost beneath sun. Expenses no longer subtract, they circulate. Wealth does not drain, it replenishes. You feel secure not because of savings but because of source. You know where money originates, and it is not salary, not clients, not economy, it is consciousness expressing itself through channels that adjust and multiply. There will be a point where you look back and realize the struggle you once knew is unrecognizable. Stress becomes stranger. Scarcity becomes story you tell not as memory of pain but as evidence of transformation. You will see how everything changed the moment your words changed. You will see that wealth began when identity shifted, not when opportunity arrived. And abundance will continue to expand beyond what you once thought possible. New levels will reveal themselves like rooms hidden behind walls that no longer exist. You will begin to expect more, receive more, hold more, without contraction, without guilt, without fear. Prosperity will feel like air, surrounding you, supporting you, responding instantly to the movement of your breath. Life will respond to your voice for the rest of your life because identity, once rewritten, does not shrink back. Prosperity consciousness does not revert, it evolves. It heightens. It compounds. You have entered trajectory upward like arrow released from bow, movement accelerated, path unstoppable, destination determined by momentum created through speech. You are no longer the person who wants wealth. You are the person wealth wants. You no longer stand outside abundance. You stand within it. You direct it. You multiply it. You speak, and money answers. Because that is the law. Because Florence taught the law. And now you live the law. This momentum does not end here, it grows further every time you think, speak, decide from abundance instead of fear. Wealth is not coming, it is unfolding. Not moving toward you, moving from you. Because prosperity is a river that widens each mile further from its source, and you are already deep within the current, carried forward not by force but by alignment, by certainty, by the authority of your spoken word. Wealth no longer feels like a destination somewhere ahead, it feels like ground beneath your feet, constant, stable, familiar, a floor that rises with every step you take. You no longer try to reach abundance, you walk in it. You breathe it. You think with it, move with it, speak from it. Your life begins to organize itself around this internal state. Small opportunities become large, short paths become long highways, closed doors become opening gates not by chance but by law. You see events aligning like constellations, each star perfectly positioned to guide you forward, each moment calibrated to return to you what your consciousness expects. Florence said whatever you speak with belief comes to pass, and now your reality confirms her truth repeatedly, unmistakably, continuously. You notice how differently you respond to challenges now. Instead of shrinking, you expand. Instead of worrying, you declare. Instead of doubting, you confirm your abundance through speech. A bill arrives and rather than tension you feel expansion, because you know payment is proof of capacity. Money leaves but returns multiplied. Flow is constant. Circulation is growth. Wealth is movement. You are movement. The subconscious mind, once trained in limitation, now serves abundance without friction. What once felt impossible now feels inevitable, as if wealth was never absent, only dormant. And now awakened, it flows without hesitation, like spring pushing through winter, like sunrise dissolving night. There is no going back. You crossed a threshold that cannot be uncrossed, a door that once opened cannot be undone. Thoughts become fertile soil. Ideas bloom like gardens. Your financial life responds like landscape after rain, green, alive, expanding, unstoppable. Money no longer measures survival but expression of identity. You spend with clarity instead of fear. You earn with purpose instead of exhaustion. You receive with gratitude instead of guilt. You know your worth, and life matches worth with wealth. Strangers become clients, clients become partners, partners become conduits for expansion. Work becomes channel, not burden. Income becomes rhythm, not effort. You no longer push, you attract. You no longer wait, you allow. You no longer hope, you declare. Speech is seed, harvest is certain. This is not luck, it is law. You begin to witness financial elevation like dawn rising slow then suddenly bright, first soft, then obvious, then brilliant. Bank accounts expand. Streams of income multiply. Investments grow silently beneath the surface then emerge towering. You make decisions with prosperity instead of hesitation. You think like someone who belongs where wealth circulates freely. And the beauty of this transformation is not only in numbers but in peace. Peace where anxiety once lived. Calm where scarcity once echoed. Certainty where doubt once whispered. You trust life because life has proven itself responsive. You speak and reality rearranges. You decree and matter takes shape. Florence said you can only receive what you are willing to claim, and you now claim more boldly each day. The world around you takes note. Some admire, some study, some follow, because your presence carries abundance like fragrance in the air, subtle yet unmistakable. You walk like someone whose future is certain. You talk like someone whose vision is evidence. You live like someone who knows the universe is consistent, dependable, obedient to internal command. Doors once locked open automatically. Routes once invisible reveal themselves. Opportunities once distant walk toward you without strain. You begin expecting miracles and life answers with precision. Nothing about it feels surprising anymore, only right. You will begin to lose interest in conversations rooted in scarcity, because your consciousness has outgrown limitation. You will surround yourself with expansion, with possibility, with people who speak growth fluently. You will operate in environments where success is normal, wealth is assumed, opportunity is natural. Because identity attracts environment, and your identity is now prosperity embodied. You will find yourself blessing money when it arrives and blessing it when it departs, knowing both movements increase flow. Wealth is river not reservoir. You do not hold, you circulate. You do not cling, you command. Supply always returns to the one who speaks as source. This is the architecture of abundance. Word shapes belief, belief shapes identity, identity shapes experience. You have mastered the first layer, speaking. You are mastering the second, believing. And soon you will master the third, living as wealth without effort, without tension, without contradiction. The next chapter of your life will expand beyond anything you have imagined. Not because you wish for more but because you became more. Prosperity recognizes you now like sky recognizes horizon, inseparable, continuous, eternal. And now the momentum compounds even further. This is where abundance accelerates exponentially, expanding not linearly but massively, widening each month, each year, each decision guided by wealthy consciousness. Your future is not growing step by step, it is unfolding wave by wave, surge by surge, carrying you into timelines where success is standard, not exception. The universe hears you clearly. You speak, money answers. You claim, wealth arrives. You expect, abundance obeys. And life continues to unfold in your favor with a rhythm so natural it begins to feel like breath itself, something effortless, automatic, self-renewing, and you notice this shift not only in finances but in the way people respond to your presence, as if they sense a stability, a certainty, a foundation that cannot be shaken. You carry abundance like posture, like aura, and the world adjusts around you the same way a river finds shape around stone, flowing not because you force it, but because your state makes it inevitable. The internal wealth you've cultivated becomes environment for greater wealth to land. New opportunities do not overwhelm you because you have expanded to hold them. Bigger numbers do not intimidate you because your self-concept has grown beyond your old limits. You no longer think small, dream small, receive small, because smallness no longer fits the identity you discovered. You grow into prosperity the way a tree grows into sky, naturally, slowly at first then suddenly unstoppable. You will watch life bring things you once considered impossible and you will meet them with calm instead of awe. Not because they are ordinary, but because you have become equal to them. Fortune matches identity like reflection matches face. You rise internally and reality rises to meet you externally with symmetrical precision. Florence Scovel Shinn called this the law of correspondence, as within, so without. And now you live inside that law with awareness instead of accident. Money becomes a language you speak without translation. You understand it intuitively rather than intellectually. You feel where flow is and where resistance sits. You know when to hold, when to expand, when to invest, when to speak, when to stand still. Wealth is no longer random, it's responsive, like instrument that plays whatever melody you express through belief. Even your emotions shift. Gratitude becomes baseline instead of peak. Joy no longer arrives only in moments, it animates entire days. Your nervous system relaxes into abundance the way body relaxes into warm water. Safety becomes internal rather than circumstantial. Income becomes predictable because identity is stable. You manifest intentionally instead of accidentally. You begin noticing the richness in everything, not only money but ideas, support, intuition, timing. Abundance appears through unexpected shortcuts, faster approvals, effortless negotiations, people saying yes where they once said maybe. Luck stops feeling like luck, it feels like alignment. Success stops surprising you, it feels like return. You recognize that nothing is delayed, only timed. There comes a day when you realize you no longer chase results, results follow you. You no longer crave wealth, you assume it. You no longer question your worth, you embody it. And when worth stabilizes, wealth multiplies. The universe does not reward need, it reflects identity. And your identity now radiates abundance with the quiet certainty of sun rising whether seen or not. You move through life with a steady sense of expansion. The future no longer feels uncertain, it feels generous. Every month expands beyond the last. Money circulates with consistency and speed. Wealth builds like architecture, structured, supported, compounding. What was once occasional becomes continuous. What was once breakthrough becomes baseline. You begin giving more, not because you must but because you have overflow. You feel pleasure and generosity because you no longer fear depletion. You recognize that circulation is proof of abundance. The more you allow to flow through you, the more returns through channels you never expected, sometimes instantly, sometimes multiplied, always aligned. Your environment shifts to reflect this new consciousness. You attract relationships rooted in growth, collaboration, expansion. Conversations upgrade. Opportunities elevate. You stop shrinking to fit small thinking, and the universe removes what cannot rise with you. What leaves creates space for what grows. Nothing is loss, everything is movement. At some point you will notice you no longer say, someday. You say now, and now responds. Manifestation compresses time when belief is unopposed. What once took years now unfolds in months. What once felt distant now feels familiar. Distance collapses wherever certainty increases. And certainty is your new resting state. Wealth begins to feel as natural as your own name, not acquired but remembered. You awaken each day knowing money is coming from somewhere, from many places, from sources known and unknown, because channels are flexible but supply is constant. You do not depend on one stream, you expand into several, then several more, then more still. Prosperity does not add, it multiplies. The world begins reflecting your abundance through synchronicity so precise it feels scripted. Right people at right time. Right opportunity at right scale. Right income at right moment. You realize the universe is not random, it is responsive, organized, mathematical, obedient to assumption, calibrated to consciousness. You assume wealth, life confirms wealth. You assume flow, flow continues. You assume increase, increase compounds. This state deepens like foundation sinking firmly into earth, stable, unmoving, reliable. The wind of circumstance cannot shake it. The tides of economy cannot erode it. You are anchored at level where nothing external determines internal state. Instead, internal state determines external outcome. That is mastery. Eventually, wealth stops being a goal and becomes expression of alignment. You no longer chase freedom, you live it. You no longer wait for opportunity, you generate it. You no longer hope for abundance, you expect it, command it, experience it. And life continues to rise to meet you, not as reward but as reflection, because wealth is not something you earn through exhaustion, it is something you allow through identity. You now stand in a position where the old version of you, the one who struggled, strained, doubted, barely recognizes this present self. You have stepped into alignment so complete that abundance follows you as shadow follows form, inseparable, immediate, automatic. There is no resistance left inside you, only direction, certainty, power. Your subconscious mind has adopted prosperity as truth, and once truth settles at this depth, the external must reorganize to match it. You begin to feel as though you are walking through life with an invisible wind at your back. Everything moves forward, everything accelerates, everything expands. Ideas come faster, solutions appear sooner, actions feel guided rather than forced. You cannot fall back into scarcity because the ladder beneath you has dissolved, the only movement left is upward. Your standard of living rises effortlessly. What once felt luxurious now feels normal. You say yes to what you used to postpone. You claim what you used to question. You take opportunities that once intimidated you, because intimidation has been replaced with inevitability. You know you can handle more, financially, energetically, spiritually, because wealth is no longer bigger than you. You have grown larger than it. Money begins coming through multiple doors, some expected, some completely surprising. Income streams open like fresh wells in desert ground. You are supplied not from one river but from several, then dozens, then ongoing channels of flow you did not have to chase. You simply stood in identity and they arrived. Florence taught that supply never dries when consciousness is full, and your consciousness now overflows. And as wealth becomes consistent, your life becomes spacious. Decisions are made from expansion, not fear. The future no longer feels like uncertainty, it feels like inevitability. You step into investments with calm. You take risks with intuition. You choose boldly, because doubt is no longer voice in your ear, abundance is. The energy that once went to worry now fuels construction, creation, vision. You will witness moments that confirm your transformation with stunning clarity. Bills paid instantly. Unexpected deposits. Opportunities arriving before effort. People offering collaboration, partnership, financial doors without you asking. You will feel the surrealness of it, not in disbelief, but in recognition. Yes, this is correct. Yes, this is aligned. Yes, this is who I am now. Soon wealth becomes the atmosphere you breathe. You look around and realize life is not improving, it has improved. You do not hope for abundance, you live in it, like air surrounds lungs. You walk into stores without checking price tags first. You make choices based on desire, not survival. You schedule life according to joy, not stress. You invest in things that elevate your state, because elevation returns wealth exponentially. Security becomes internal. Even if one channel closes, you feel no fear, you know others will open instantly. You no longer believe in collapse, you believe in circulation. Money lost returns multiplied. Money given returns expanded. Money spent returns renewed. Life is no longer transaction, it is flow. And in this flow you realize the true beauty of wealth, not the numbers, though they grow beyond imagination, but the power of choosing without limit. You travel when you want. You rest when needed. You help others from overflow, not sacrifice. You move through the world without shrinking or apologizing for abundance. You live as proof of what consciousness can do when it is not at war with itself. People around you will feel the shift. Some will ask how you did it. Some will simply watch and absorb. Your presence itself will teach without words, because abundance emits signal, frequency, authority that cannot be faked. Florence said demonstration is the highest teaching, and you now demonstrate wealth through posture, through calm, through certainty. The future stretches out like golden horizon, not blurry, but vivid. You can see it. You can feel it. You can taste it. You know where you are going, not because you force the path, but because the path forms beneath your feet with each step spoken into existence. You no longer wonder whether life will support you, you know life is shaped by you. Your vision becomes bolder. Dreams enlarge. You begin planning multi-generational prosperity. Not just income, inheritance. Not just wealth, legacy. You think in decades, not days. You plant trees that will shade others. You build structures that endure beyond your presence. Abundance becomes architecture, not just experience. There comes a moment, maybe soon, maybe now, where you look at your life and realize the battle is over. Not because you fought harder, but because you stopped fighting at all. You surrendered to truth instead of fear, to supply instead of lack, to law instead of effort. The word you speak shapes the world you live, and you speak wealth fluently. Money responds to you like echo responds to sound, instantly, accurately, repeatedly. You say more and more arrives. You declare bigger and bigger comes. You expect overflow and overflow meets you. Wealth does not trickle, it pours. And in the deepest layers of your being you finally understand the statement completely. When you speak, money answers. Not metaphorically. Not spiritually only. Literally. Your voice is command. Your belief is blueprint. Your life is evidence. And abundance from here forward is not just likely, it is guaranteed by identity. And abundance from here forward is not just likely, it is guaranteed by identity, because you no longer stand outside the gates of wealth. You walk through them as though they were always open, as though they were built for you, as though your footsteps were expected. The universe does not hesitate around you anymore. It recognizes you. It mirrors you. It answers you. You now carry prosperity the way flame carries heat, naturally, effortlessly, unmistakably. You do not need to convince anyone you are abundant, they feel it. They see it in the way you move, the way you speak, the ease behind your decisions. There is no scramble in you, no longing, no lack. Only certainty. Only flow. Only the quiet power of a person who knows where they stand. You have become the kind of individual Florence spoke of, the one who commands with word, manifests with faith, receives without resistance. You are proof of her law in motion. You do not just read the principle, you demonstrate it. You do not just believe in the power of the word, you wield it. And so the story ends the way it was always meant to, not with a question, but with a declaration. You speak, and reality shifts. You claim, and wealth forms. You decide, and the universe restructures. You are no longer the seeker. You are the speaker. And money answers you every time. This is not luck. This is alignment. This is law. This is the new you, permanent, expanded, unshakable. From this point on, prosperity is not something you pursue. It is something you live. It is something you breathe. It is something you radiate. Abundance is now your state. Wealth is now your normal. Your word is now your power. When you speak, money answers, and it always will.